When we talk about the church, too often we talk about it as a building that's at a certain location. We say that we're going to church, that I'm active in my church. We say this person is planting a church, or this group is building a church. And we talk about it like this so often that we often think about the church in the same way that we think about the temple in the Old Testament, as a place to go and to do some rituals that God says we have to do if we want Him to bless us. But when we look at the dedication of the temple in today's reading from 1 Kings 5-9, we see that God has a much greater purpose than having us attend some weekly services and participate in some religious activities. So Solomon begins the task that was handed down to him by his father David, the task of building a permanent temple for the Lord. In chapter 6, in the midst of the building process, the Lord appears to Solomon to make sure that he remembers what this is all about. He says, "I will dwell among the people of Israel." That was the goal all along. And when the building was finished, just like we saw in yesterday's reading from Exodus 40, when they finished the tabernacle, it says that the glory of the Lord filled the temple. And His presence was so awesome and overwhelming that the priests had to take the day off. Then Solomon stood before the people in the temple courtyard, and he prayed to dedicate this temple to the Lord. And in his prayer in chapter 8, we see what the temple is all about. And when we see what the temple is really all about, we understand what the church is all about. And when we understand what the church is all about, we begin to understand what our lives are really all about. So 5 things that we see here about the purpose of the temple. Number 1, in the temple, we encounter the presence of a God who is perfectly faithful. Verse 56, Solomon says, "Not one of the many good promises that the Lord made to Moses long ago has failed." Number 2, verse 57 says that in the temple, we encounter the presence of a God who is with us, not just in special places and in special meetings, but with us every moment of every day, wherever we go. Number 3, the temple is the place where people are made right with God. Solomon prays here over and over again that when people come to this temple, Lord, hear their prayers and forgive their sins. Number 4, in the temple we meet the Lord, and He works in us to change our hearts. Solomon prays in verse 58 that He would incline our hearts to Himself so that we could walk in all of His ways. And number 5, he says in verse 60, that the purpose of the temple is not just for Israel to enjoy the presence of God as His specially chosen people, but he says the Lord meets us and works in us so that He can also work through us to declare His glory and His goodness to the nations. Solomon prays all of this so that all the peoples of the world may know that You are Lord. That's what this temple is all about. And 2 Corinthians 3:16 says that now we, the family of true followers of Jesus, are the temple of the living God. And the purpose then of the temple that's made of stones and gold is still the purpose now of this temple that's made of flesh and spirit. This temple is meant to be a place where we encounter God, where we obey Him, where we worship Him, where we surrender to God's purposes. And then in this temple, we go and we declare His truth and His glory, and we display His love and His goodness for all the world to see.